Welcome to Building While Flying, a Sasha Group podcast where we interview business leaders about how they tackle challenges, stay resilient, and navigate ever-changing skies.
Adam, thank you so much for joining us on Building While Flying today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Adam Ross is our guest today. He's the co-founder and CEO of Heyday, which launched its first skincare shop in New York City's Nomad neighborhood in 2015 with the belief that everyone should have access to professional skincare services, ultimately taking the facial out of the spa and into local communities across the United States. So Adam, I will admit I am a bit of a novice to this category. I don't believe I've ever had a facial. I think I've been to a spa at my honeymoon, which was about 10 years ago. So I'm going to need some ground floor kind of level of education here, right? So you talk about decoupling the facial from the spa and building a brand that kind of focuses on that experience for maybe a younger demographic. So what can you kind of teach me about the way the category was and what led you to seeing that as kind of a white space for Heyday?
Sure. I mean, the indirect question could be, Mickey, what is a guy doing founding a skincare brand? So, one of my prior chapters was actually in investment banking, and I did a lot of mergers and acquisitions, ultimately, within the consumer product and retail sectors, but within beauty more specifically. So a lot of my time was spent over the years working with Lauder, L'Oreal, Avon, Revlon, P&G, Gillette. So all the big companies. And within that, Mickey certainly got exposure to a number of different subcategories. And one of those was spa services. And out of all the categories that I'd looked at in my career, I hadn't come across anything that was so large, so fragmented, and structurally disadvantaged. And I sort of say that in the way that you and I, if we had more time, we could probably talk about so many other consumer brands and categories where they've just been fundamental advances in how they set up to be in service for the consumer.
Got it.
And it generally comes down to removing friction points of time, cost, and convenience, but you've also got to do it these days with an engaging brand. So I'd say like a great example that's been used for many years, I'd say was Warby Parker. Where they did such a great job of saying the eyewear category is so structurally disadvantaged. There's no way designer frame should be $400.
Right.
There can be a trade-off in price without a trade-off in quality. Let's do it with a better shop experience, a better brand experience, and set something up that is democratizing to the customer, so there's still money left in their wallet. So, when I looked at the spa category, it was operating to a very outdated playbook, and it was very female-centric, targeting those women predominantly age 50 or above that have the time and money to engage with facials. And to your point, you either do it if you've got that time or money, or as a treat or indulgence to yourself, whether you get a promotion or you're on vacation, whatever it is. So, we looked around and to our mind in New York, there have been earlier pioneers. SoulCycle was an early adopter of freeing cycling from the gym. We had Dry Bar at the time that was freeing the blood from the salon. We said at Heyday, let's free the facial from the spa. And the nuance is a really important one, because I think when you hear the word spa, it has this beauty, pampering, indulgent connotation.
Right.
Yet when you reposition it in an environment like Heyday, which is unintimidating, gender neutral, design inspired, facials are self-care. And it's one of those ones where, again, the market wasn't set up because the average facial is $200 and it takes a few hours out of your schedule. And it's imbued with these friction points. And to our mind, there was a younger demographic, but I define that as early 20s to mid 40s, that wants to have great skin. And it's a service that you can't replicate at home, but they think about skincare as self-care. So they think about it in line with their monthly fitness, their vitamins, their beverages, their mental health, like whatever goes into people's self-care, investment every month, and skincare was noticeably absent. So we set out to change that at a price that, again, sort of encourage routine and repetition, knowing that access to professional facials is going to get your skin to a whole new level.
And what that access to professionals, I guess when you talk about facials being more of an indulgent and not something you can necessarily do at home. Have you seen that? Have you seen kind of the discourse change around that at all in the light of like Instagram TikTok being places where people are going and learning about things that like were more challenging to learn about in the, than in the past?
No, it's a good question. I think consumer spending and where they spend has certainly changed post COVID. And I think what is advantageous to a brand like Heyday, where we're anchored with estheticians, and that's someone that has to do, Mickey, generally speaking, a 600-hour state certified course, but they use products that are professionally strength, so they're not available to people like you and me. So they so they can supercharge results, and basically what a facial will do is, your skin cells renew every 28 days, but what we see with a lot of people is they're applying skincare products at home, but they're applying it across dead skin cells, so the products aren't absorbing. And what a facial is going to do is it's going to gently exfoliate, it's going to cleanse all that dead skin cells off, which leaves your skin tone totally fresh and ready to be plumped with like serums, toners, oils, moisturizers. So your skin retains that elasticity, and we get wrinkles because your skin loses that elasticity. So it's almost like what we do within a Heyday sets people up for their home care routines to work. But absent that, a lot of people are using the wrong products the wrong way, and they're not necessarily getting the right results because they're not penetrating the skin the right way.
Got it. So talk to me a little bit about kind of the underlying business model. It started as, a services-based experience, but I also now noticed that you've got, a membership model. You've got there's also a retailer and kind of e-com shop component of it for beauty brands, and now you're franchising as well. I guess talk to me about some of that evolution, and then what's the revenue breakdown kind of by those different channels?
Yeah, I mean, we have and always will be rooted in services. So that's the lion's share of the business, call it 3/4 of revenue in any one shop. And to your point, you're right. We have a membership model, and, we have it where we encourage people to come once a month. Again, like your skin cells renew every 28 days. But the membership model is flexing up where if you can't make it, you can gift it to a friend, you can redeem it for a gift card, you can purchase products online. So we're trying to make it quite user-friendly, but again, skincare is all about routine, and the skin is quite a complicated organ. It can evolve and change with stress, with pregnancy, with environment, with diet, with sleep. So a lot goes into it. So it's not necessarily a one and done. So we were trying to set up a membership model that was very compelling to encourage that regular behavior. And we're in a very fortunate position where probably around 70% of our facials done any 1 month are done on clients on a monthly membership model. So very good recurring revenue. And yes, we've got a website where we curate slightly more products than we have in shops. And again, it's just all about making it easy to engage with skincare.
Got it. And so you shared a little bit that your background came from the finance world and mergers and acquisitions and that I'm sure gave you a great insight into the category, the landscape, and kind of the, where the opportunity to kind of free facials from the spa became. I guess what are things that you had to learn on the job as an operator of a retail business, and that experience that maybe even as much finance and M&A experience as you couldn't have prepared you for?
Yeah, great question. I mean, investment banking was a great stepping stone to starting a business. I think it gives you a broad strategic and financial overview on how to set up a business, how to model it, how to set it up to raise money from investors, and things that are critical to getting a business incubated to product market fit. I think where you're always going to learn, Mickey, is on the operations side, and in particular, we're a very labor-centric business model. Our average shop has got 25 to 30 estheticians, so it's all around people management. It's around culture, it's alignment, it's around motivating people, and no business school textbook or investment banking course will teach you that. So, for us, that was that's where you keep learning. And, for us, what we view as a competitive moat is being an employer of choice, and the people management and the motivation and the growth that comes with that is, I think, to our mind, where we can unlock success, but that's never a straight road as one would like.
Yeah. So when you talk about that, my mind, and you talk about kind of the labor side, and kind of the building of culture, because you talk about like this is 600 hours worth of certification or of study that someone has to go to in order to kind of be in this role. My mind goes to a couple places. I want to start one on the challenges that maybe COVID had with kind of a retail, physical location based business, but then also kind of what that has done to the labor market and how you have kind of managed through that. So we'll start there, and then I have a second question as well.
Yeah, I mean, COVID was brutal for us. I actually don't think we could have been in a worse business. And the irony, Mickey, is a lot of medical procedures or doctors rightly were deemed essential services, so they could reopen in very short order. Botox being one of those services. So the irony that people could still get Botox, which was deemed essential, yet facials weren't, was quite painful to watch from the sidelines. But we had our doors in New York and Los Angeles. They were closed between 8 and 16 months. So we essentially had to reopen the business in 2021. I think the silver lining of that is there was a very, very, very painful week. And as a founder, I'd never envisioned being in this position. It was the end of March, and between our support office, Mickey, and all our estheticians and those in the shops, so this is March 2020, we had a little under 500 team members, and we had to lay off 485 of them.
Wow.
And I think what certainly helped was the government support and assistance provided to workers during that period. But we kept a smaller team on and almost skunk work projects and said, hey, we've got 5 years of like lessons learned and mistakes. So like when it comes to reopening, let's make sure that we've streamlined and simplified our protocols, our shop opening procedures, and basically a leaner, meaner, stronger, more efficient version of the shops. We revamped our product curation, our booking platform. So we did a lot of almost, rebuilding the foundation of the house. And that's, tying to an earlier comment you made around franchising, it's one of the benefits of franchising because you cannot scale exceptions. So it forces you to standardize so much of what you want to do. And a lot of the time with COVID was around our growth and development for estheticians, which is essentially a craft-based trade. And I think one thing that we found, and I think this applies to a lot of, I'd say more like creative craft-based economies and categories, is yes, you've got to pay them top tier compensation, but you've also got to develop their craft and hone their skills in a way that they can't get anywhere else. And they're equally important. Right. So for us, it was sort of a dual focus on doing that, because again, with Heyday, the esthetician is our greatest asset, and you're in a chair 50 minutes one-on-one with an esthetician. So you're almost our informal sales force. So getting them right and setting them up for success is what creates happy clients. They come back, they tell their friends, and that's the circle of life we're looking to encourage here.
And so to that end, I got to imagine there's the skill set side of it and the like making sure they're set up for success. I'm curious about how do you view estheticians. I don't know if I know how to say that word. But if they, do you encourage them to build a personal brand on social media? Do you give them a platform to say, hey, you actually do have a craft. You are you have a ton of information that you have learned and gained experience on over the years. And it's a valuable use of your time and for Heyday overall for you to be putting out TikTok and Instagram vertical videos that that kind of break down and explain, like I asked you at the beginning of this conversation, teach me about your world, because it is, as whether it's for someone who's never experienced or for it's people who've experienced it only one way for 10 years. And maybe you guys are teaching them new things. Is that something that you encourage? Is that part of kind of that development?
Absolutely. We use a number of them, and we're again fortunate because we've got 100 of estheticians within Heyday. So how we use them for product curation, we've got so much data that goes into our business, Mickey. So they write detailed notes. So you're going to be the benefit of, again, your skin type could be dry, I could be oily, someone else could be sensitive.
Yep.
We're all on different skin journeys. So we use our estheticians for a lot of content. We use our estheticians on, Instagram. They can do it themselves. We use them on TikTok. So I think we encourage it both under the Heyday brand, and some are more extroverted and they do it on their own TikTok and Instagram accounts.
Yep.
Others a little less so. So again, we meet everybody where they are on that one.
Got it. The analogy I have in my head is like a Peloton instructor getting whether it's Emma Lovewell being in Super Bowl commercials all the way down to, the instructors just having big followings on social media. That benefits the brand as well as it benefits them, right? Like that is certainly from the, there's some like old school thinking. My mom would be like, you would fear that because, I've given them a platform to help them build and then they're going to leave. But I actually see kind of there's mutual benefits that the brand and the business and, the institution can have.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because you take a Peloton or a SoulCycle or other concepts out there, Mickey, they're a one-to-many business model. So you can leverage an Emma Lovewell or an Ali Love,
right?
Or everybody. Estheticians, it's different because it's one-to-one. So you don't necessarily, and it's probably the downside of a physical business. I can't 10x my business overnight. So having one person that causes a massive spike, a lot of our estheticians are booked weeks and weeks in advance because they've got a loyal following. So it's a little different. You need to think a little creatively when it's one-to-one versus one-to-many.
Sure.
So it's
more of the got it. Yep. Understood. Cool. I just was curious on how, when you talked about development, that's where my brain went. But, in addition to kind of all the, I'm sure the craft related things you guys provide as well.
I mean, we provide a lot of one-on-one support, a lot of internal training courses, and, estheticians, they've got their areas of focus, Mickey. Some love to dive deep on acne. Some love to dive deep on, hyperpigmentation, which are, brown spots and sunspots and things on the face. And again, I think the craft-based trades, money is important, but it's not as important, I think, as other professions where, compensation can rule the day. Like, yes, it's important, but again, the more we empower them to be confident in their massage skills or areas of focus, it lets them have a deeper, greater experience, again, like one-on-one with the client, and really work with them on a particular problem. So again, part of the opportunity I saw back in 2013 when I had the light bulb moment was this was a category that, as it relates to estheticians, massive employment class, really poorly treated and underappreciated. So the more you can invest in that, again, you put a competitive moat around business that helps you control the supply side in a way that, like, European Wax has done a phenomenal job with waxing. Like they're such a clear market leader, and there's no close number two. So I think that's a core area of focus at Heyday, and we don't see any other brand doing it in the level of the detail and rigor that we're currently doing it at Heyday.
That's awesome. You talked about, I want to go back to, you talked about maybe one of the blessings of COVID, if having to, go through it being as hit as hard as your business was the kind of building of the foundation. And it sounds like the standardization is what prepared you to explore the franchise model. So I'm curious around, was that kind of the catalyst, or was that always on the roadmap and, COVID just maybe accelerated it?
Yeah, we'd made the strategic decision to franchise back in 2019. So it was a pre-COVID decision.
Yep.
And it wasn't initially on the roadmap, I'd say, Mickey, when we opened our first door in mid-2015. And again, I think just an appreciation of where you then really understand the business and knowing that the average Heyday shop has 35 to 40 employees. It was one that it felt to us, and certainly when you look to locations that are going to be hundreds or thousands of miles away as you expand across the US, is we felt our team was going to have a better experience, and our clients were going to have a better experience if we franchise, because the franchise partner is so invested in upholding or even enhancing the experience that we worked so hard to create at a Heyday.
Yep.
And we didn't want, I think that, the thing that keeps founders up at night as any brand scale is the magic and the consistency of the experience, the brand DNA, and how you don't lose that and become soulless or institutionalized to scale.
Yep.
And And it just felt like a better division or separation of church and state with where we could spend our time. So within Heyday, we can focus on our brand, our menu innovation, our training courses and like product innovation. So we're giving more and more reasons for our clients to come back.
Yep.
And our franchise partners, as better operators than we could execute better than we can. And what was interesting with part of our diligence is with a lot of franchise brands, Mickey, those that do it well, every single metric is actually far superior than company operated doors. And it's not just better revenue, it's better recurring revenue, it's higher customer satisfaction, it's lower team turnover. So done well, it seemed to us as a better way to utilize resources, and then it let us obviously expand faster so we can have a greater impact on our mission and serving more clients and happy faces and democratizing skincare. So it checked all the strategic, financial and operational boxes that we were looking to.
To that end, I've worked with some franchise. I've worked across the franchise space, both on the corporate side, helping like do the brand marketing that's going to ultimately drive traffic to franchisees. I worked on the franchisee side where we're only focused on their specific locations. I've worked on the franchise development side. So, helping to, how do you find those right operational partners? Franchise development side to me is one of the ones that's like super interesting because the market, I'm curious how have you found your best franchise operators or best franchise partners?
Yeah, there's a few different ways we do it. One is organically, even sort of like through almost like organic paid search where Heyday Direct does it. We do work with other partners in the industry, Mickey, and there's quite an extensive broker network and services that still quite prevalent in franchising. And there's other firms that we work with as well. I think we're looking for two different types of franchise partners, and I think for us it's both. It's first bucket is those that are great operators that are like new to franchising or great operators that have franchised previously. And I think there's some great franchise partners that are looking for their next investment that have come off, for example, Orange Theory or other bigger networks that we've seen a lot of consolidation in, in recent years. So if we can get them for their second rodeo, great for us. And then the second bucket is institutional capital. And Heyday is a business where you don't just put one in a market, you've got a clustering approach. So I think we're seeing, we need to open a few more doors, but we're getting some interesting inbound requests already from some good institutional capital partners that would take, I'd say, anywhere from like 20 to 50 units. So I like those two groups that I think sort of combine to create the right network. And for us, it's you get a lot of leverage by having multiple doors under the one partner versus just franchising single doors to single operators.
Yep. That makes sense. I think to me, the broker network is what's also kind of fascinating because it seems a little old school in some ways, but then also I've met some really great people in franchise development who have built it through just putting out great content on LinkedIn and having really smart strategies on how they've kind of talked about their business and the franchise opportunities that creates and how they've pulled in audience and pulled in, whether it's institutional, whether it's multi-franchise operators, or maybe it's that person who's been in banking for 20 years and wants to get out of the corporate ladder and get into franchising themselves. So across that spectrum, but that to me is where I see like such a cool opportunity is on the almost like B2B marketing via LinkedIn content and kind of building an audience to help pull in people into that world.
Totally agree. We do all that, but to your earlier point, and for any, I think, budding entrepreneur that's listening out there, the franchise development category is ripe for innovation.
Yes. I agree with that. Well, I'm curious, skincare is a evolving business, right? Like there's new things that there's innovation that's happening. How does Heyday kind of look at and evaluate innovation, deliver on it, and kind of keep you on the cutting edge of kind of skincare solutions?
Fantastic question. We're quite proactive in that area, and when we find products that we actually like, Mickey, we have a core group of estheticians that generally test product for 4 to 8 weeks. So it's not a one and done. Some of them, they use it at home. We get feedback. We're very ruthless on the brands that we take into Heyday, because we've got a very heavily curated portfolio. Skincare is just one of those categories. And I think part of the reason why it's so confusing to everyone out there is it's very loosely regulated by the FDA. So you hear these words like organic and natural, and I don't know whether people use them more as a knee-jerk reaction to what we've seen in food, but skincare is one where there's no real certification for natural, but we've come across some products that are organic and they're shelf unstable, they're inherently toxic. You can celebrate clean cosmeceutical products and ingredients in skincare. So at Heyday, and different companies have got very, very different definitions of clean. Sephora's definition of clean is very different from Credo's definition of clean. But at Heyday, we found that efficacy rules the day. And if you've got a bunch of products that may be 95% natural because they've got some more active peptides to get the results, then we do that. So I'd say strong botanical products come together with like clean cosmeceutical science to get the results. I mean, we still have a big no list on parabens, sulfates, and artificial nasties, but there is so much fantastic research and evolution in skincare that can be celebrated, that gets fantastic results. So, I think we've got to slowly educate the client around that, but until the FDA gets tighter on their regulation, it's still going to be probably like vitamins and other categories where it's a little bit of the wild, wild west.
Awesome. Well, we've talked about kind of the evolution of the business. We talked about franchising. We've talked about innovation here. What's kind of on the roadmap of next challenges for you to tackle as the founder operator? What's on your kind of roadmap?
Yeah, I think one thing that I'm a huge proponent on, and I'd say if I'm going to critique my own performance in recent years, it's how many hours, Mickey, I've sitting around the boardroom table arguing about what we think the client wants. And these days, like, let's get out there and test it. And the beauty of our business is we don't have, I'd say, supply chain considerations like a lot of other, D2C companies, for example, where products getting made overseas, you've got to make a bet on inventory, it's got to get made, it's got to get shipped. Our supply chain are almost our estheticians. So it's very easy around like a new service or an innovation or something we want to do to take a shop, test it for 30 days, and see what works. And things that work, we then roll out across the system. Things that don't work, fish and cut bait and move on to the next one. So we've really increased our agility to test and learn and get feedback. And we can do that very, very quickly. And again, we don't have any big, sort of core supplier or concentration risk that other businesses do. We do tens of thousands of facials a month. So it's very easy to test and learn. And that's been incredibly successful for us. And even when things don't work, it's not a failure, it's a learning. So I think the culture that we're promoting there has been critical to how we've innovated. And, we're not just out to address what customers are looking for in their skin today, but what are they looking for tomorrow? So I think that's how we stay ahead of what others are doing.
You may have just inadvertently described our entire approach to marketing, which is we don't need to debate which creative idea is going to be best for our brand, for the consumer. Make them all. Make every idea you can come up with, put it into the market, whether that's on TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or Threads today or whatever it is, and let the consumer tell you. Let see the creative, the idea that is winning out, and then the ones that don't, it's learning, it's not failure.
Totally great. And obviously a lot of your hypotheses are going to be validated, but there's going to be some hidden gems where you're going to be like, I would never have thought that in 100 years. And like that's the gold that you need. So couldn't agree more.
Amazing. All right. Well, last question. We call this podcast Building While Flying, because when you're building while flying, it's important to kind of keep calm under pressure. So when your back's against the wall and you're kind of faced with a tough decision for the business, what's your internal pilot's checklist, so to speak, or process that kind of helps you get through it?
It always helps, I think, when you put pen to paper, things feel less scary. And then I think with always give yourself 3 options. I think if you've got 1 option, you're trapped. If you've got 2, you've got a dilemma. And if you've got 3, you've got options. They may not be good options, but I think wherever you present options and you pre-mortem and you fast forward to like, what's the worst possible outcome, you almost rob it of its fear to some extent, but that then helps you communicate and think through it. So that's been invaluable for me. And, don't forget to take 3 deep breaths along the way.
Amazing. Eliminate fear and take deep breaths is what I heard. So great. Well, thank you for my crash course in education on the spa business and facials, and excited for y'all's continued growth. And thanks for being on the show today.
No, thanks for having me, Mickey.
Thanks for joining us for Building While Flying today. I hope you learned as much as we did. We'll meet you right back here next time for another flight.